This is two things. First of all, it is right in time for Christmas. Second of all, it's the fourth bestiary put out by Kobold Press, which is called Tome of Beasts 3. And I got this thing in my hands for about a week and a half now, and I'm ready to give my first opinions on it. But I can already say, I think this could very well be the best bestiary ever put out by Kobold Press. Hi there fellow roleplayers and game masters, my name is Mr. Trosk and I have an issue with every monster book put out by Kobold Press yet. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore these, but all of these have at least one issue that I kinda don't like. The first monster book ever put out by Kobold Press is the Tome of Beasts, and this might be my personal favorite, but that is 99% due to its sentiment just being the first, right? It's the first Kobold Press bestiary for 5th edition. It's full of like wicked monsters and everything, but it has a big issue, and I've talked about this on my channel in the past, and the issue is that the challenge ratings for this book are completely off. Like, seriously off. If you pit a level 7, a CR7 creature from this book, for example, against a level 7 party, 9 times out of 10, they're going to get their ass kicked. And if you are not an experienced DM and you don't adjust during the combat, you will have like player character deaths or even a TPK on your hands, which is something that every now and then, if it happens, makes the game exciting, but if it happens like every encounter, well, it makes the game pretty unplayable. So although this is a really cool bestiary, just keep in mind that the CRs are just way too low and you just need to adjust for that. Then Kobold Press released the Creature Codex, which was again a really good bestiary. And the problem with this thing only popped up later when they released the Tome of Beasts 2. Because now we have a Tome of Beasts 1 and a Tome of Beasts 2. And I cannot help to find this, I don't know if it's my ADHD or ADD, whatever you want to call it, brain or whatever, but I just cannot stand there being a Tome of Beasts 1, then a Creature Codex, and then a Tome of Beasts 2. I just think it's really weird. The third book should have just gotten another title, or this should have been the Tome of Beasts 2. I don't know why they did this, but it's just really weird to have this sit on my shelf the way it is. It is otherwise a great bestiary, and they kind of fixed the challenge ratings. The challenge ratings in the Creature Codex are way better. It is again a book full of wickedly cool monsters, wickedly cool artwork, stat blocks, everything, lore, whatever you want to know from a monster book by Kobold Press, and the challenge ratings are way better, and I know this from experience. I've been playing these a heck of a lot because I play in a Midgard campaign setting. I use a lot of these monsters from these books, and every time I use one of these monsters, it ends up being way too strong for its challenge rating, and when I end up using one of these monsters, it just ends up being kind of the right challenge rating. Now, challenge rating is always like it's not an exact science because it depends on the party and the power level of the party or whatever, but it's just a feeling you get as a game master, like, here I don't have to adjust during the combat, not a lot, you always have to adjust a little bit, and with this I just have to adjust on the fly and just, I don't know, not roll a die instead of rolling a die, because otherwise my party will die. Then there was the Tome of Beasts 2, which was a really weird choice, title-wise, and it is also my least favorite, and I want to tell you why. The Tome of Beasts 2 has a lot of great creatures. Like always, Kobold Press, great art, great storytelling, great lore, great whatever, stat blocks, whatever. It's just great. The percentage of joke creatures in here, like creatures that are meant to, like, if you're flipping through the book, there are joke creatures in here, and I have no problem with joke creatures. As I personally don't use them in my game that much, but I like just flipping through a monster book and every now and then seeing a monster and being like, ah, it's a good one, it's a good pun, or ah, it's good, yeah, it's funny, or weird funny, or whatever. And the amount of like really weird and jokey, I don't know if they're meant jokey or whatever, but it's just a weird in a weird way, and I cannot really pin my finger on it, but the percentage in here is too high for me personally. I think this book, a book shouldn't take itself too seriously, but this book just takes that a step too far for me personally. And as a matter of fact, I barely use any monster from the Tome of Beasts 2, which is really well, that's actually really sad, right? Just to give you an example, this book has a ogre PD, or an ogre Pete, or whatever you want to call it. Basically, there's a fucking ogre strapped to the ass of another fucking ogre. And I know there's an audience for these creatures, probably, and that's all fine if that's your kind of game. I mean, there's no problem with that, but the percentage of those kinds of creatures in here, for me, is just too high. But then came the Tome of Beasts 3, and I don't even know where to start. A company can do two things with their feedback. They can completely ignore it and keep doing what they're doing, like Wizards of the Coast, or they can be Kobold Press and they can actually take that feedback and create an even better product than they are already creating before. Came the Tome of Beasts 3. This thing, I've been flipping through this, I've only had it for 2 weeks, and to fully really review a monster book, you need to be playing with the monsters inside for about like 2 years or whatever, like 20,000 sessions to really know if it's really that good. But my feeling just says this is the best monster book that Kobold Press has put out. I think these monsters in here, first of all, are completely 100% super original monsters, stuff I wouldn't be able to come up with. Some really cool new giants, really cool new dragons, really cool just new stuff, new dinosaurs and everything. The challenge ratings, although I don't know for sure because I haven't play tested them, but my years of experience tell me these challenge ratings are really good, and Kobold Press does a lot of play testing, so this is their 4th book, so the challenge ratings are going to be just really, really good. And there are some really weird and wicked and jokey creatures in here, which is not a bad thing. The percentage sits just right for me, and that's why I really think if there was one bestiary that I would take to all of my games for the rest of my life, if I had to play 5th edition for the rest of my life, this would probably be it. And before we take a look at the PDF, I just want to show you a quick thing. The paper quality of this is just insane. The Tome of Beasts 2 has this papery, like, matte finish to it, which doesn't give the colors what they need. Kobold Press artwork is always really colorful, and the colors need to pop. And right now, with this version of the hardcover of the Tome of Beasts 3, they really used a glossy kind of, it's really hard to show on camera, but like a glossy type of paper that gives this really weird centaur horned horse a really cool vibe, and you can see these bloodstains, and really it doesn't pop on camera like it does in real life. And just to give you an example really quickly, this is the Tome of Beasts 2, and here they use, I just opened it, and they just use this matte finish, which also makes it kind of look cool, but it just doesn't do the artwork justice for me. So that's another detail that I really like about the Tome of Beasts 3. And here it is, ladies and gentlemen, man oh man, the Tome of Beasts 3, which has an amazing cover. So what we see on the cover is actually a Bone Lord. It is a creature on page 65, if I'm not mistaken, of the Tome of Beasts 3. And basically what it does is it can spawn all kinds of undead that do its bidding, and it can even like mass heal undead by doing damage to the player characters, and at the same time healing everybody, all of his allies or whatever minions around him, as long as they're undead. And on the cover, he is walking across or crawling or whatever across a graveyard, because we see these grave things here, right? So he's walking over a graveyard, and he's kind of like awakening everybody that is in that graveyard as a zombie or white or whatever to do his bidding. Now, the creature itself doesn't specifically say this, but I think this is the creature itself. So there's an entire lore thing about it. By the way, they take an entire page about its lore, its lair action. So it's one of the big creatures in the book. It's challenge rated 19. And then there is Servant of Death. And that is basically the ability it has to kind of call upon undead. And on the cover, it is on a graveyard. And even in the beginning of the book, they say, look on the cover, there is this Bone Lord crawling over a graveyard. And they are like awakening everybody who lies on that graveyard. But the thing is, here it just says the Bone Lord magically calls 3d6 skeletons or zombies, 2d4 ghouls or 2 whites, and never ever does it say that there need to be dead people in order to spawn these zombies. It literally says it magically calls upon zombies or skeletons or ghouls or wights, which is a cool ability to have, but I think thematically it's just way cooler to use this where there is a graveyard or like a mass grave of like this evil wizard who killed like thousands of people, and then suddenly this bone lord crawls up to it and just starts spawning these people that used to be good people, but now they're zombies, and there's this entire zombie army, and then it kind of does Pattern of Death, which is a recharge 6 kind of thing that he can do, and he can do necrotic damage to the party that's trying to fend off these undead, but then all of these undead heal, and it's this crazy thing, and I think it is really a really dangerous creature to, if you give it enough time to spawn enough zombies, it becomes really, really hard to kick his ass, especially if you keep rolling 6 on your 6-sided die. That's the thing with recharge, right? Like with dragons, for me, it's always like, so you have a dragon and it's dangerous, but a dragon could go wrong really quickly if it like recharges its breath weapon 3 times in a row or something like that. And that's the same with this, which makes it really, really exciting and cool. And then here is the index, and Kobold Press, like always, does the fun thing of putting the words, like the type of the creature first, and then the subtype of the creature first. So, for example, there are angels in here, and there are all kinds of angels in here. For example, there's a shrouded angel in here, and although it's called a shrouded angel, it says angel shrouded, which is just really, really easy to look up if you're looking it up for your game, or if you have to like quickly reference the stat log because your player surprised you. And they do the same with all kinds of new creatures. There are a bunch of new demons in here, clockwork creatures in here. As you can see, they really go for this book. They really get like a lot of different types for different types of creatures. So there are a bunch of new devils in here, there are dinosaurs in here, but not a lot, but we already have a lot of dinosaurs. There are a bunch of new drakes in here, which is something really cool. Kobold Press is so good at doing drakes. For some reason, their drakes always are really, really cool, and a ton of giants. And if you know me, I really, really love giants, but there is way more than I can possibly. Ogres, for example, new ogres, new oozes. There is a really cool ooze in here that I know. There are if I'm not mistaken, new swarms. Was there? Yeah, there's new swarms, and so as you can see, they really go into like this. This is the type of creature, and we have a bunch of these types that fit in this, or like subtypes that fit into this type, and they really, so you can almost build an entire game just like, I want to play a swarm game. All you need is this book because you have enough swarm creatures. If you want to play a game where your party has this problem with a bunch of ogres, you have a bunch of ogres. If you really want to go to a city full of giants and your players need to encounter some of those giants, you have a big fat list of giants. And that's just design-wise something really cool Kobold Press does. And for this book, they really put a lot of effort into that aspect of the book, and that is, I can only appreciate that. Now, if you've been on my channel for a while, you've probably seen my video last week where I talked about void magic, and so I instantly flipped to the new void creatures because I am actually preparing a video called Creatures from the Void where I talk about like my favorite void creatures. And this book introduces 2 new void creatures. The first one being the Void Constructor, and the second one being the Void Knight. Now, the Void Knight is kind of like the main attraction here for like when you read about it on the back. If you read the back of the book, they say, hey, there's a new Void Knight, and it is cool. It is a cool knight. It can has like these void tentacles, and it can pull you in and then do like a shit ton of damage, but I think this thematically is really cool. It's the Void Constructor, which is basically a bunch of void stuff, rocky void stuff, and what they do is, what their job is building void henges. And a void henge is basically a gate between the void and the material realm you find yourself, or it finds itself in at that point. So there's the void here, and there's the material realm here, and what these void constructors do, they build gates. And it takes a heck of a lot of time for one void constructor to build one of those gates, but more void constructors working together can build a gate pretty fast. And they even give like this sub thing, this sub thing right here to tell you like what a void henge is, and then in the creature itself it says it can build a void henge. Other than that, it is just a challenge rating 3 creature, so once you encounter them, they are not really that hard to, although they're like pretty vicious, but they're not really that hard to beat. But most of the time they're functioning in as like the workers of a bigger creature. So for example, there could be this void knight who is just telling his void constructors to go build a void henge because they want a void dragon to come into the material world. So you need to destroy this void knight. But other than that, these creatures are not particularly powerful, but thematically I just think they really make sense, and I will be really talking about them in my Creatures from the Void video, which is coming up probably in January. And then there is this. I was flipping through the book and I fell in love with the Prismatic Dragon. I think this thing is so incredibly beautiful, so incredibly cool. I am like, I don't have a place for it in my game. I'm actually adjusting my game to have a place for it. It is so, I don't want to like spoil its entire thing, but look at it. Look at the like colors in the wings, and look how it grows up from being like this, like where it has more body fat and like these really small wings, or a little bit awkward teenager kind of thing, right? So it becomes like this somewhat powerful Drake almost type thing, but with wings. Some Drakes have wings. Then it becomes more of a slim serpent, vicious thing with like really sharp edges, and then it becomes this like, yeah, this magnificent serpent-like worm, great worm of a Prismatic Dragon. And Kobold Press, I know you have a lot of new dragons in here. There's a lot of new dragons in here, right? So there's the Sand Dragon in here, which is cool because sand, you don't want like looks like a hyena, right? So really cool. But the Prismatic Dragon just, yeah, it's just, I don't know. There's nothing in here that beats. In terms of dragons and drakes, there's nothing in here that beats the Prismatic Dragon. Oh, and there's a Doom Creeper in here, which is really doomy and creepy. And since we were talking about dragons, let's talk about drakes, which are basically dragon-type creatures, but they're just kind of like different, right? So there is the Bakery Drake, which is like, that's one of those creatures that doesn't make sense for me. It's a bakery drake. It's a drake that has flour, like baking flour, and I don't know. I just stopped reading that. There's the Cactus Drake, which is not my thing, but I think it's cool, but just not, I don't see me using it. The Ethereal Drake, which is really cool. You are like literally looking kind of into the void when you stare into this drake. And all of these drakes have wings. There is the Reef Drake. Yeah, this is really cool. Really, really creepy. And as it crawl like that on a reef. There are, as you can see, Kobold Press really loves drakes. As a matter of fact, some of their books that are not monster books host drakes that weren't in any of their monster books. So they even have like drakes outside of their monster books. And there is the Riptide Drake. I really, really like this. I've always liked sea creatures because there is like this unknownness to them and this creepiness to them. And this really sets this sphere for that, for the atmosphere for that, for like jumping in the water and having this entirely new world where everything you see is weird and has sharp teeth, and they can swim, and you're pretty bad at swimming compared to them. So yeah, that's why I think this really sets the tone for that. There's a Shepherd Drake, which gives me extreme Never-Ending Story vibes for some reason. And I don't know, is there more? Vapor Drake. There's the Venom Drake. Look at that thing. Look at that thing. It's like purple, blue, green, yellowish red, and that's it. Then comes the Dread Examiner. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 new drakes. And there is so much more to talk about in this PDF, and this book is just filled with amazing creatures. It just blows my mind. So what I'm going to do is the following. I'm just going to click somewhere, just like randomly, and then by the way, there's a lot of like new Fiend Lords and Ladies, so this is one of the last ones. So yeah, it's a good click, right? So there's Fey ladies. Sorry, Fey ladies. Fey lady, Fey lady, Fey lady. There's a new Fey lady. Here's a new Fey lady. Mother Moth. There's a new Fey lady here. Rainforest. Oh, this is actually a Fey Lord. There is another Fey. Oh, a Fiend Lord. Yeah. So what I'm gonna do, what I was planning to do is. Oh, by the way, before I go there, they do this a lot, where they just talk about how these creatures, although you can use them in any game, any setting, whatever, how they fit into the Kobold Press, Midgard, or Southlands, which is basically one thing, campaign setting. So it's really cool to have that as an extra box thing. So let's just scroll down and do 10 creatures, just really quickly. Just, I don't know what we're going to encounter. So here we go. That doesn't count. That's more like of those kind of, that doesn't count. So fungi. Really cool, funny. Oh shit! Oh my. So I don't know if you noticed, but I actually have I'm legit scared of plants. Like, plants just being too close to me scares me for some reason. I have no idea. I like going for walks in the forest where plants belong, but not in, like, I don't know. It's really weird to explain. If they're not in their natural habitat, like a spider on the wall and you're not in their natural habitat, it scares the living crap out of me. So this kind of stuff really scares the living crap out of me. But it's cool. It's really cool. More of those. I lost count. Let's just keep scrolling. Three-headed wolf kind of thing. Yeah, look, just as you can see, most of this stuff is creatures you can actually use if you're playing in some kind of if you're playing in a serious game. Some of these creatures are funny or can be played funny, and humor is really important in D&D. But like, if the game itself is a little bit like serious and boots on the ground, these creatures can almost exclusively all be played. There's a Hellfire Giant in here, which has a club and is casting some kind of spell. There is a Lantern Giant in here. I don't know. And that's about everything I wanted to say for now for the Tome of Beasts 3. Full of incredible monsters, and I will be using a lot of these in my coming sessions where I play, where I run a game in a Midgard campaign setting, and I just want to pit some of these creatures against my players to really test out the book. So I will be talking about the book more in the near future, or like the further away future, or on my Discord. You're still welcome on Discord or on Twitter or whatever to connect with me. I really like I want to talk to everybody who's interested in third-party D&D stuff. And until next video, bye-bye. Really well done, Kobold Press.